Hello, everybody. My name is Thom. I'm an architect. I practice in Norfolk. Norfolk has a downtown that has experienced a renaissance, and but that renaissance kind of screeched to a halt in 2008 when Granby and Main Street a site was cleared for development of the hotel conference center that never came, that lost its financing, and on the most important site of all downtown, it became a sandy pit with the sand migrating across the parking lot. So the Downtown Norfolk Council, which is a group that advocates for businesses, put out a call for volunteers to make a pop-up park. So based on one that they had seen in Roslyn, Virginia at the top, and then with aspiration of the High Line, which is kind of the gold standard now for pop-up parks that also have permanence for vanity. So we looked at this site, and the first inclination was to negate it, like Super Studio may have done in the 60s in Florence. Basically make a clean slate and then go from there. But we realized really fast that the site itself offered tremendous amount of resources, as does the city and our local environment. So we had only had $20,000 of seed money. Everybody was doing this pro bono. And so we started to try to pull elements from the site itself and from our local environment to make this place and try to craft it. And we used this idea of reclamation to guide what it was that it did. You know, we're a lot of designers and it was business professionals from downtown. We had these lofty ideas, but when we started to hone in on what we could do with what we had and what was available locally, it made it better. And before Granby Street had its renaissance, it was a pedestrian mall, and there were these old concrete planters that still existed scattered about the city. So we got some of these. And the last one, we had asphalt on the site, so we chopped it up to make way for tree pits or to use that asphalt. The boathouse, which was a concert venue by Harbor Park, and was damaged during Hurricane Isabel and sat in ruins. And just before we started, it was being demolished. So we took the time, swooped in there, and got timbers from that structure, chopped them up to make things you can see a little bit on site. We also wanted to use the site as a springboard for other things that we want to see downtown, like food trucks, also recreation downtown, places for people to linger, hang out, and it opened up opportunities. So it's a port city. We have, every day we see shipping containers being dragged by trucks or by boats around the harbor throughout our region, and we saw that as something that was useful and we could use. Similar to in New Zealand, they tilted them up on end, used them as a sounding board for information, but also as a very noticeable and present anchor for this piece of land. So we got 3 of them from Maersk, tilted them up, anchored them in the ground with screw piles, welded them together. Taking all these materials and doing something with them, we had to follow some rules. So we we made a set of operations. You would draw on the site, you would cut it up, we would soften it with planting, landscaping, we would collect the items, we would arrange them, and this is the plan that we arrived at. Basically making a diagonal pathway between Granby and Main to make it easier for just people to walk through. But then while they were there, we tried to make instances so that people would linger and people could think of new activities and see the city in a different way. So this was the rendering that it resulted in as the view along that diagonal path. The containers with the reclaimed timbers as benches, the concrete planters being planted, trees that we got from the city, lighting that was donated to us. And this was this next couple of images are it being implemented. This was it being drawn on the ground. We went out and instead of having to hire a surveyor and do that, we drew it in the sand, we staked it off, We figured out this 16-foot grid, and then we started laying it, and our budget ballooned, but that happened by donations and the time of volunteers. So the majority of the labor was done by people that rallied around the project. We did hire a contractor to set the containers, to set the pathway. We got bricks from the city elsewhere, so we could use the same standard to cut that path and to gain, make access on the site. We got, again, trees from the city. We got plants from Master Gardeners that showed up and showed people how to plant. We have plants that are going to be beautiful year-round. We have food there, there's strawberries growing in planters. And this is where we are. This was taken 2 weeks ago. Our goal was to get it open for off sale so that it could be enjoyed as a useful piece of the infrastructure. And it happened. So the image at the top was taken last weekend during the festival. And it appears in the lower right, and it just has become part of the fabric. It's like it was always there. And we are about to embark on phase 2, which is going to be some recreation space, bocce and basketball. And now, because that took a year and a half to get done, we're looking ahead and trying to think where the next phase might be that can come in and stitch back into the fabric of our local environment. So thank you very much.